Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Suitcase and Chardonnay podcast, an extension of my blog by the same name. I'm your host, Renata Engelbrecht, and here we talk all things lifestyle, travel, fashion, food, and wine. So I am at Amaya Lodge with Lauren and David, and I'm super excited to be here because I'm experiencing something very unique. It's different to the usual safari, and I wanted to just talk to you guys about the experience because it's quite dual purpose in a sense. But maybe just tell me a little bit more about how things started, your background, and how this whole place came to be.
That's going to be quite a long story. I guess our backgrounds are both very separate, so I'll dive into mine. I'm a biologist by degree, studied marine biology and zoology, and spent 8 years in the Maldives working for really, really high-end resorts as a marine biologist. Never in a million years thought I would end up in Africa, let alone South Africa. But just very organically, my career ended up in wildlife TV as a presenter. So I was in front of the camera, just sort of giving knowledge on species and that biological input. That took me to the Caribbean, where I was a marine expert. So I was on TV, but I was underwater.
Okay.
Yes. And that just led me to getting a job opportunity here in the bush with Wild Earth TV, being a presenter in front of camera, not underwater, and driving a vehicle. So
Okay.
that was 6 years for me, and that's how I met David, and that's sort of how we ended up here. So I don't know if you want to explain your background.
Sure. So I've been in film for the last 9 years.
Okay.
Ever since I left school, it was the very first thing I ever did. I grew up in Johannesburg, always had a passion for wildlife. And when I got my first wildlife gig at Wild Earth, that's when I met Lauren.
Okay.
And so we spent several years together, her in front of camera, me behind it. All sorts of amazing wildlife sightings in different parts of Africa. And we're recently married, I should say.
Happily so.
Very, very much so. But it's only just for the last year and a half that Too Wild has been running. And that's Lauren and I's company. And we offer, as you know, a wildlife filmmaking course based here in the Timbavati Game Reserve.
It's incredible. I think just building something up from the ground like that is quite a big challenge, especially with such a difficult location as well. Can you just tell me a little bit more about how that happened, how you got this piece of land, and just a bit of the process to get where you are today?
Sure. So, one of the things that Lauren and I did outside of working for the TV show was we hosted tours to exotic destinations to go and view wildlife. We were based in the Sabi Sands for a long time, and of course, all of our colleagues were offering trips to the bush. We figured that there was enough of that. And with Lauren's background in the Maldives, we offered a ocean safari.
Oh, amazing.
And one of these trips took place over the space of 2 weeks or so, where we had all sorts of people join us, a lot of them viewers of the TV show. And this is where we met our business partner, Kevin,
Okay.
who's the third person in Too Wild. It's the three of us. And one night after a couple glasses of wine, Lauren, in a very convincing way, pitched her idea to Kevin, who had recently bought this little piece of property in the bush. He absolutely loved it. And here we are today.
Wow. Okay. So tell me a little bit more about the setup here and your dream for the place, because, like I said at the beginning, it is dual purpose. You've got a student side, and then you've got a bit of a lodge, whole safari experience type of thing going. So maybe just explain to me what the setup is.
Yeah, it is essentially a lodge. So it's not too complicated. It's Amaya Lodge, and people can come and stay here as they would any of the lodges in the area and experience that sort of safari experience. So that is the fundamental aspect of what we are. The other aspect is throughout the year, not continuously, we do run wildlife film schools.
Okay.
So that will take place here, which is obviously a beautiful location to be taught how to learn wildlife film.
Yes.
But they just take place throughout the year, and students come. Our students are very diverse, of all age groups, all around the world, and they come with that one passion to learn how to film wildlife. So that is a sort of slightly separate operation. But again, the lodge and the film school can take place at the same time. We have our own modified vehicles. We have a Land Cruiser, a Range Rover, our own equipment, our own space, an edit suite. So we've just got that little thing going on. And then, of course, the lodge is available for people to stay and just experience the Timbavati.
Yes. And it is incredible. I mean, you've got this beautiful pool area and it's really submerged in the bush,
Yes.
and outdoor showers and everything. It is just, yeah, it's magnificent. Tell me a little bit more about Too Wild in terms of costs. What can people expect? And what do they walk away with after? And how long does it take them to complete the course? Just a little bit more on that.
Yeah, our course is actually condensing from 4 weeks to 3 weeks. Reason being, it's actually quite achievable. Everyone that we've had so far has just excelled in the course, and we've realized that it is really doable in 3 weeks. It will be a lot more intensive, but that's okay. You're here to learn, and 3 weeks might just be a little bit more doable for people in terms of finances and time.
Yes,
People in this
yeah.
world do not have time.
Yeah.
So that's why we've condensed it. So moving into 2026, it will be 3 weeks. The cost is $10,500, and that's all inclusive. So that's all inclusive of your accommodation, your food, your game drives, your mentorship, your teaching. Everything that you can think of is included in that price.
Okay. And what is included in the course? I mean, I've had a small glimpse this morning of just driving with you guys and seeing how you use the cameras and how the students get to learn everything. But I mean, obviously you've got some classes, I suppose, and extras that go with that. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. I think it's worth mentioning where this idea was born from.
Yes, yeah.
And I started my journey in film in Johannesburg working on commercials, live TV shows. Always had this idea of being a part of the wildlife film industry, but there really was no avenue to pursue. There's a lot of barriers to entry, one of them being access into a natural space, the other one being getting your hands on the necessary equipment to build your portfolio. That's something I grappled with trying to get into the industry, and of course we thought of Too Wild as a solution to that. So it's a facility where everything is provided, the machines to edit your footage. There's 6 different camera rigs for you to learn from. We use all sorts of stabilizers and macro lenses, really to arm you to the teeth as a wildlife filmmaker. So the crux of the course comes down to going out every day for 6 hours, more or less, depending on what's happening, and spending time in the field with the kit.
Yes.
And this is time you spend perfecting the skill of camera work, and also for you to collect portfolio work. It requires an obscene amount of time out there to actually get something worthwhile.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that really is the focus.
Yeah.
Between that, we have workshops and lectures peppered throughout the course. We work with a natural history editor. She's currently working for Netflix, so
Oh, cool.
it's kind of hard to get her time, but she is a part of the course where she hosts editing workshops. She then also comes in and does a review with the students.
Okay.
So she'll give them some very detailed feedback, to get it up to a standard that she sees fit. We then also have workshops done by Lauren, our in-house biologist, head of operations, safari guide. She does a lot. So she'll come in, and from a biological point of view, ethics is something that she touches on.
Okay.
Phenomenology is one of her favorite topics. Learning about the bush and animal behavior is also so important for what we do. There are then also practical sessions led by myself or one of the other mentors that include using gimbals or macro sessions. We also look at rig maintenance. We do some nighttime star lapses
Oh,
for people to
cool.
get their heads around that,
Yeah.
and we also really start from basics to introduce people to film. As we've mentioned, there's no barriers to entry here or qualifications required. So the first week is really the nuts and bolts of how a camera works, what to do with a tripod, what this button does, and of course, moving on from that, it's composition, how to expose your camera. Um, so these are all sessions that take place over the space of 4 weeks. Mainly the last week, there's not much time for anything because people are furiously editing away
Yeah.
and finalizing their portfolio pieces.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is what they walk away with, is this.
Yes.
And that's right. And so for a cameraman slash filmmaker, um, more so than a CV, their CV is a show reel, which is 2 minutes of their best work. And this is to be utilized to further your career. For job applications. This is a piece of portfolio work that should, in theory, help you to further your career in the industry.
Yeah, and it was quite clear this morning as well how proud they are about their work and what they've achieved in this time. It's really
Very.
Massively.
incredible.
You were actually part of the review session. That was our second one.
Uh-huh.
And on the very first one, the both of them had tears in their eyes
Oh, shame.
after after they showed us their reel. So it really means a lot to these people. And it's amazing to see that sort of emotion come out and be a part of their journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's clear that it is also something that someone would really invest in because of the fact that it is not that cheap in terms of what you put in.
Yeah.
I can only imagine, that you invest time and money into something like that, and then, yeah, the end result must be quite spectacular.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, I know I would. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. You touched on the importance of understanding animal behavior in what you do. Can you maybe explain a little bit more about that in terms of the videography side of things and why it's important to understand what the animals do and why yeah.
Sure. So, I mean, if what I would say is anticipation is key. That is a make or break factor when you're out filming animals in the wild. Um, as much as you can, you want to be ahead of the action as opposed to trailing after it. So the more you can interpret from the behavior, it puts you in a better spot to anticipate what might happen.
Yes,
And
yeah.
this is why it's so important to look out for the tells or understand what sort of behavior is being displayed so you can anticipate what might happen next. Of course, you never get it right all the time,
Yeah.
but where you do, that's when things really start to come together.
Yeah.
So the better you understand the animal, the better equipped you are to document it, and that's why having someone like Lauren on board is totally invaluable.
Yes. Yeah.
To, you know, Cameramen are sitting behind a little screen, working in their little zoomed-in box. That Lauren's interpreting the environment around us, making us aware of what we might not be seeing, interpreting the behavior and helping us to understand what might unfold next, and often telling us what will happen before it does.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to us.
Oh, it's incredible. Right. So that is the film school side of things. Would you just tell us a little bit more about the lodge itself, the rooms, and what people can expect? I mean, I've experienced it for one night now, but maybe you can just touch on some special elements and the process to getting these beautiful tented, structures in place.
It was a very quick process actually to get the tents up. It was a company called Bush Tech that did that. But what we tried to create here is a very organic, natural feeling environment. It's very wild. We've only built upon existing footprints. So we haven't put a building or a tent where there wasn't something before.
Okay.
So that means that the land was already disturbed and we are just building on that. So we didn't disturb any fresh land. We've tried to weave and put everything around the trees so that nothing was removed. And I think you can really feel that. The grasses are left to get very long, which makes it wild. So it's a very wild camp. We're actually up on a crest. You might not be able to tell that right now because it's summer. It's very, well, it's winter, but we've still got the summer vegetation. But in real winter, you can really see for miles. And even within the rooms, we've again tried to keep that organic, natural feeling, beautiful, luxurious, but we like to call it quiet luxury. So it's not in your face. We do want everyone that comes here, whether it's a film school student or a lodge guest, to feel at home, to not feel stiff and uncomfortable. You know, you can really come and relax here and feel the luxury and savor it, but you're also in nature and you can feel that.
Yeah. No, that's, it's really an incredible experience. So thank you so much for having me. And I would just wish you luck on this new adventure. And
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
may it grow into something really big.
Yeah, I hope so too.